What is up, creators? This is Tom. Welcome back to another video. I've got a cool one for you today, something we haven't done on the channel in a little while, and that is a lens comparison between these two pieces of glass. This is the Sigma 18-35mm F1.8. It's probably one of the most popular lenses for the Canon crop sensor market, and this is the Canon 16-35mm F2.8. This is the second generation of the lens, which is a Canon L series lens, so it's a really high quality piece of glass. You can get it at a relatively similar price if you buy it used to the Sigma 18-35mm. As someone who has moved to the Canon system recently, I was shopping around for the best sort of variable wide angle lenses, and obviously the Canon 16-35L sort of stuck out in terms of like a high quality wide angle lens, but I already owned the Sigma 18-35, and when I was sort of shopping around for comparisons, there weren't an absolute ton of comparisons out there comparing these two lenses. And obviously the 16-35 will work great on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, on crop sensor cameras, even though it's a lens designed for full frame systems. So I finally managed to pick up the 16-35, and I thought a comparison is definitely in order. So without further ado, let's set the scene. So in regard to these lenses and the sort of I guess the areas, the ballpark in which they operate. Obviously the 16-35 is widely raved about. Like, I've talked about this lens a lot on the channel. It's extremely popular for camera lines like the 80D, the 90D, these sort of crop sensor areas of the market. However, it's also extremely popular because it sits really well on the Super 35 sensor, so it sits really well with Canon Cinema line as well. I personally use this lens on my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. So this is like a rig which I've been using for the past, sort of week or so, just for handheld run and gun shooting on the Pocket 4K, and this lens sits really, really well with this camera. It's a really fantastic combination. However, this lens is specifically designed for crop sensor cameras, which means if I wanted to use it on the full frame system like the EOS R for things like photos or even video, that would not be a good choice because you would get sort of quite an aggressive crop. Whereas the Sigma 16-35mm is a full frame lens, so it will work completely unhindered on, for instance, a crop sensor camera like the Pocket 4K or the EOS R. You'll be able to use the full range of views. So this comparison, take it with a pinch of salt, because this is a really useful comparison for people like me that own both a full frame system and a crop sensor system. But if you maybe have just one, that question is probably going to be answered. If you're wanting a full frame lens to use on the EOS R, you're probably going to want to go with a lens like this, whereas if you're just using it on maybe like the 80D or the 90D, maybe the Sigma is the way to go. Like I said though, I do think it's a useful comparison, so let's first talk about the optics and the general performance. So as I have had this lens for not a super long amount of time, I haven't sort of shot a bunch of stuff that I can compare left and right, the two lenses side by side. So I took this on a very, very quick little shoot yesterday on a walk with my dog. So I have a little snippet to show you. I don't use variable NDs when I'm lens testing because I want to get a feel for what the glass actually looks like without any other sort of optics in the way. So that's why some of the motion looks a little bit weird in some of these shots, but that's just because I was having to mess around with my shutter speeds quite a lot. But without further ado, let's play the snippet.
I don't cry when it rains no more, or I get dirt on my shoes. I don't mind climbing 8 more floors, 'cause these stairs are all heading to you. I don't wait for tomorrow's sunshine when I feel it today. When it's cold in the dead of winter, remember that snow melts away. One more cold drink, one more roll, one more dance before the doors get closed. Please remember, enjoy the show. Let's get happy before we get old.
So I had those lenses labeled lens A and then lens B. So I'm going to give you an opportunity now to write in the comments which you think is which, and then I will reveal in a few seconds who is correct. If you edit your comment, you lose any bragging rights that you would have had in the comment section down below. But of course, first of all, the lens A is the Canon 16-35 2.8, and then lens B is the Sigma 18-35mm F1.8. I think what actually might be useful as well is if I actually set up the Pocket 4K on a tripod, sort of facing me right here in this exact setup. It's going to be a little bit more zoomed in because of the crop sensor nature of this camera, but I will sort of switch both lenses on so you can get a feel for, you know, what the footage looks like with each of these lenses in this sort of talking situation as well. And then we'll talk about the sort of characteristics and the feel of both of these pieces of glass. Alright guys, so this is the Sigma shot. You'll be able to see just how sort of different, like, the crop and the compression. I've left the camera in exactly the same place. Obviously the previous shot was with the EOS R, and now this one is with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema, but the tripod and the camera is in exactly the same position, so you can get an idea of comparison. So this Sigma is a really amazing lens. Like, I've used it an absolute ton. I've made quite a lot of money from this lens because it's basically been my sort of one and done lens for videography for, I would say, you know, the past sort of year or so. Like, it's just such a versatile little piece of gear. However, what I would say is when paired with a camera like the Pocket 4K, or just really just any camera in general, like, the lens is widely renowned to be one of the sharpest lenses that you can buy for Canon systems. However, it's actually a little bit too sharp in my opinion. Like, you get a very sort of digitally sharp look out of this lens, which is great for certain content and not great for others. In my opinion, the Canon image has quite a lot more character than the Sigma image. Like, the colors reproduction out of the lens is just a little bit nicer, a little bit softer than the Sigma, which just sort of looks a little bit more digital. It's a bit more, almost like it's got some sort of digital enhancement. Again, this is not necessarily a blanket rule. There will be some shots that look better with the Sigma and some shots that look better with the Canon, but overall, the sort of biggest difference between the two. The other one to mention briefly is the low light performance. So the f1.8 on the Sigma, that's an extra couple stops of light on the f1.8. So if you do think you're going to be doing a lot of work in low light situations, I would say the Sigma is actually a no-brainer compared to the Canon. Like, f2.8 is not bad low light performance, not going all the way up to f4, but you know, it's just an extra thing to consider. Alright, now this is the Canon in exactly the same place as the Sigma. Both of these shots were at the widest setting, so 18mm on the Sigma and then 16mm on the Canon, and they were both set to f1.8 on the Sigma and then f2.8 on this setting. I haven't stopped it further down because with a speed boost you get a little bit more give on the low light performance, so I've just kept them at their sort of natural aperture levels. And I think you will agree that the image again just has a little bit more character on the Canon. And again, this might even be to the point where it's a preference look, but quite a lot of people use diffusion filters on the Sigma to sort of just soften it up a bit and make it feel a little bit more natural. And in my opinion, there's not as much need to do that on the Canon, but both of these lenses do produce amazing images. So both of these lenses actually hold up really, really well in terms of build quality. The Canon is actually a little bit lighter at 670 grams and the Sigma is 810 grams. And that you can sort of feel like the Sigma feels a little bit more hefty, a little bit better build quality than the Canon. The Canon is a little bit more plasticky, which is a surprise for an L series lens, but it doesn't feel cheap. It's just you can feel the difference. However, I've actually had much more luck using the Canon 16-35 on a gimbal than I have using the Sigma. Like, the Sigma is quite a heavy lens for gimbal work because it's so front heavy. So it's really good news for me that I've sort of knocked off 150 grams off that lens and I'm able to balance gimbals just a little bit easier instead of everything being so front heavy. But again, the build quality of both of these lenses is pretty good. All right, now we come to one of the reasons why the Sigma 18-35mm f1.8 is so popular, and in my opinion, this is because of the price. Like, you can pick up, I think I picked up the Sigma 18-35 for around about £480, which I guess is roughly about $550 in the States, and I've seen them go down to about $400, so they are a really, really good investment in a lens. Like, they're not crazy expensive, and the quality that you're getting out of these lenses, like, it's one which you can keep in your camera bag for, you know, the next 10 years or so, because the build is good, the quality is good, and the price isn't going to break the bank. So if you are on a budget and you're shooting on a crop sensor camera, I think the price is a no-brainer for the Sigma personally. However, this is actually why I've gone with the second generation of the 16-35 for the Canon EF system, is that basically you can pick up these lenses for you know, a not stupid amount of money. Now, I managed to pick this one up for I think about £650 in the UK, so you're only like, it's only a bit more than the Sigma. And considering I can use this for photos, for wide angle photography on my EOS R, I think that's a great buy. PS, that's also why I haven't gone with the third generation, because that thing is crazily expensive. Alright guys, so we come to the sort of wrap up of the video. We sort of got to this point. Hopefully you have a feel about which of the lenses maybe you prefer the look on, but overall this conversation for me is about which cameras you own. Like, for me, this was an absolute no-brainer. I could actually get away with selling my Sigma 18-35 lens now. I probably won't, because I make YouTube videos with it and on it, but the 16-35mm from Canon does everything that this lens does for me, with maybe the exception of that extra stop in low light performance. But like I say, overall, because I use it on my EOS R, I also use it on my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, it was a real no-brainer for me to switch to the Canon 16-35mm f2.8. Like, that made sense in terms of a move and an investment move for my videography and photography. If you were asking me, should you buy the full frame 16-35 yet you only own a Canon 90D and really have no sort of plans to upgrade to a full frame system, I would actually say go for the Sigma. It's a fantastic lens, and you're never going to regret buying this thing. Hopefully this has been useful and or interesting. If you did find it helpful, maybe just drop a comment in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your experiences maybe with one of these lenses, or each of them, or maybe it's just helped you choose between the lenses in the first place. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys next time.